Minister, it's lovely to see you again. Even though the cost of COVID financially, economically and socially has been monumental, I'm still optimistic about the future. We have the same raw ingredients that pulled us out of the last recession. One of the most educated workforces in the world, the youngest population in Europe. Our cost of borrowing at the moment is low, while our reputation in financial management is high. In the recent past, we had full employment and the fastest growing economy in the Eurozone. And despite all the ongoing sensitivities around Brexit, we're a valued member of the EU 27 team, the single market, and we're committed to the growth of an all-island economy. But the problems that we faced only 18 months ago are still fresh in my mind, and I suppose are a warning to us for the future. How our economic recovery took off, but we didn't have the public infrastructure to support it after the recession, and a lack of investment in certain areas over the years. And we have to try and avoid that fate again. And we have been held back by our lack of social and public infrastructure. And we've seen through COVID that we can do things differently, and the rule book has been thrown out when it comes to work, and naysayers have been proved wrong in challenging things differently, in doing things differently. We've shown that we can. So we need to rebuild our culture and our infrastructure around the learnings of the last year. And it's clear to me that quality of life, equal opportunities, regional balance, work-life balance, and sustainable lifestyles are key. One of the biggest trends of COVID has been the flourishing of mixed purpose communities or mixed use communities, and the decline of single purpose communities. And we've seen how maybe areas like I represent, like Castleknock and Blanchardstown, with people working from home, flourished, and parts of rural Ireland, and people have been up in sticks and moving there, and we're concerned about our city centres. But I'd argue with anyone that would suggest that city centres are dying. It's areas where offices or retail have dominated that have suffered the most, not city centres per se. It just so happens that our city centres are dominated by single purpose uses. And surely it's an opportunity for us to make our cities more livable, to be more like European cities where families can live. Maybe it's not working from home that could hollow out our cities, but an over-dependence on single-purpose areas. So it's a much more sustainable way to live, 15-minute cities based on hyper-proximity principles, mixing residential areas with office and employment opportunities and social infrastructure made accessible by active transport, and all accessible to each other. And I say this as someone who is from a suburban area and has seen how our main streets have suffered over the years and can see the potential that is in front of us now. So I'm a huge advocate for Town Centre First strategy. I agree with Minister Burke that we need a joined up strategy with supports for people, for rural Ireland, for suburban Dublin and for our city centres, for local businesses, for families, for quality of life. And if we want to change the way we live and work, we need investment. And we need it in the traditional areas like our schools and our community centres. And I agree with Senator Kine, we badly, desperately need a fund for community centres. And I know that in Dublin West. But we also need it for new types of investment, like community childcare and community co-working spaces. And it doesn't have to be new buildings. I mean, one of my ideas was around the Bank of Ireland closure of branches that could be used, some of those key buildings in our towns for co-working spaces. And you'll be aware of the 300 hubs that we have in Ireland and how they are mostly enterprise hubs rather than co-working hubs, because running a co-working hub can be difficult to sustain financially if you don't have anchor tenancies. And I would suggest to you to look at the 320 tax relief that companies have that they can give to individuals. And I would ask you to consider that that can be applied for hubs. so that it could go towards a stipend for an employee using a hub, and that would help sustain hubs as well in the long term. I also think a design and build approach could be, we could look at that, where instead of communities investing in hubs across the country themselves, that we have a design and build where we have preferred suppliers that can kit them out to a high standard for a better return on investment. But all of these things have to be done strategically, and we can line up our investment in multi-purpose communities, in co-working hubs and in community childcare. We can line that up to Project Ireland 2040, because we don't want to have hubs randomly around the country. We should be investing in them strategically. And local authorities are really interested in this, but they don't have specific funds and they haven't been updated, and they need them. So I've lots of other ideas, but yeah. I suppose I'll finish with this. We've started talking about remote working, but we haven't really started to talk about remote-ready communities. We talked about broadband, but we need to go further than that. Okay. So thank you very much, Minister.